What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of Best Bets and Props. This is for the big pay-per-view card, UFC 276, this weekend, where two championships are on the line. Israel Adesanya at middleweight, defending against Jared Cannonier and Alexander Volkanovski. In my opinion, this should be the main event of the evening. Volkanovski defending at featherweight against Max Holloway for their third bout in the trilogy. It should be epic. A lot of good fights on this card, a lot of good betting lines on this card this week. And, I'm trying to keep it light this week as far as betting goes. Just trying to hammer the money lines that I like, a couple of props that I like, and trying to leave the parlays behind for a bit just to get on track. It's been a couple of sketchy weeks with the Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett, very close decision, cost me money. Last week, the very close Arman Tsarukyan Gamrot fight cost me money. Both guys were in parlays, so going to try to leave the parlays aside, just go over some confident fighters and some very fair-priced money lines, in my opinion. I went over this, not only my full card breakdown, but on, if you go check out my guy, Mike, at Couch Warrior Podcast, go give him a subscribe. Tell him Patrick at Addicted to Combat sent you. We went over this for well over an hour, the entire card, broke it down from a gambling perspective. He's a real sharp bettor, so go over there and get some insight, make some money. I'm going to start with the four moneyline fighters that I have bets on currently. I'll talk about where the odds were when I got these on like Sunday or Monday, and I'll talk about where those odds are now. All four of these I think are still bettable at the current price. So first up is Jessica Rose Clark in the very first fight of the night. This is a clear favorite or pass bout against Julia Stoliarenko, the Lithuanian submission specialist. She has 9 wins. 8 of them are submissions for Stoliarenko, all arm bars. She's a girl that's 0-4 in the UFC. Not a great record at all. She's had some close submission attempts against some girls in the UFC so far, but has failed to get the job done. Jessica Rose Clark coming off of an armbar loss in the first round to Stephanie Egger, which is why this money line is so close. I got this. I think this opened up around like minus 120 or so. By the time I saw it, I got it at minus 140. I put a small amount on Jessica Rose Clark. Not something I'm going to hammer too hard. This is still a fight IQ issue with Jessica Rose Clark. You don't want her to engage in the groundwork or get trapped in the guard of Stoliarenko. The only place in this fight where I think that she is in any danger, she keeps us on the feet. It should be an easy decision victory for her in this fight. Again, trying to bet the underdog in this women's MMA bout, I do not think is the way, because it is a bet that you'd be placing on Stoliarenko, who is 0-4 in the UFC, and as I mentioned, she has really shown no way to get the fight to the ground. She's been in, 4 bouts in the UFC, lost all of them, 12 rounds total, and has landed 1 takedown. Not a very good recipe if you want the fight to get off of the feet and onto the ground. So give me Jessica Rose Clark. If she can just avoid getting submitted and submitted early, she should win this fight. Minus 140 is what I got it at. I see her climbing now. Minus 150 is still out there. I probably wouldn't go anything over minus 160 on Jessica Rose Clark, but I am pretty confident she can get the job done here. Next up is Dricus du Plessis. I'm betting him over Brad Tavares. Brad Tavares has a wealth of experience. Dricus du Plessis only been in the UFC 2 times, but he has a very good regional scene resume in KSW. Had a couple wars against Roberto Soldic, who I'm very high on, who you'll see in the UFC at some point in the future for sure. I like Dricus du Plessis. He's younger than Brad Tavares, longer and bigger than him. He's got more fight-ending power, in my opinion, and Brad Tavares has been a gatekeeper role for a long time in the UFC, over 10 years now, I believe. He was in the UFC since like 2010, so yeah, well over 10 years. Very good takedown defense. Dricus du Plessis has shown his striking in the UFC so far, but he is primarily a grappler, primarily a submission artist, so that might be off the table for Brad Tavares. Although I do think that the size can help, the speed can help him maybe transition to the ground at some point in the fight, but even stand-up, I think that I would favor Dricus du Plessis. You haven't seen much striking volume from him compared to that of Brad Tavares in the UFC, but looking at the regional scene tape, I think he's got the 3-round cardio needed to get this fight, get the dominant side of the striking exchanges for Dricus du Plessis. He does have a lot of wins. They are all finishes. That is a little bit dangerous, but again, the money line minus 120. We're not having to put a whole lot of juice on this hyped prospect like we normally do. They're really giving Brad Tavares his respect. He does have a hugely positive record in decisions. Brad Tavares by decision isn't a bad look either for the right price, but I'm taking Dricus du Plessis. I believe in the the improvements that he can make in his third UFC bout. I think he'll rise to the occasion and defeat Brad Tavares either inside the distance, which is most likely based off of his record, but I think he could take this to a decision as well. It is possible. For minus 120 on the money line, I will take the younger guy here. Next up is a very juicy underdog that I am very, very confident in. This is Gabe Green to beat Ian Gary, to hand Ian Gary, the young undefeated Irishman, his first L in his career. I think Ian Gary is very untested. He's primarily a kickboxer on the feet, very good movement, huge for the division. He's going to have a big height and a small reach advantage as well. But Gabe Green is very, very muscular. He's not going to be, per se the smaller guy here. Very muscular frame, short, stout guy at 5'10" at the weight class here at 170. And Gabe Green just showed that he is tough as nails against Johan Lainesse, who hits way harder than Ian Gary does for sure. Ian Gary's a sniper counter-striker, lands the perfect accurate shot on his opponents the way you saw him do that against his debuting opponent, Jordan Williams, who everybody knocks out, by the way. But he then came back, Ian Gary, against Darian Weeks on very short notice. And Darian Weeks actually gave him some trouble, was able to take him down, grind him against the cage from time to time. I think Gabe Green will be able to do that and then some, a guy with a lot of submissions on his record. And at plus 135, I got him at initially. Another unit at plus 140. Now it's all the way up at like plus 160. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there. I've kind of invested what I want to invest already, but I kind of mistimed the money line. I thought that people would be grabbing that plus money, but they're not. They're betting Ian Gary, who's largely untested at 24 years old. He's shown on the regional scene, I've seen deficiencies in this ground game. I don't think it's that high level. I think Gabe Green can out-wrestle him, out-grapple him, out-muscle him, and, even out-strike him if, given the opportunity to counter-strike and catch, Ian Gary inside, close range. So I like Gabe Green. Again, plus money, I feel kind of bad that I mistimed this, but you don't want to keep on hammering when you've already invested what you want to invest in on an underdog in this, this weight class at this kind of experience level. But it is tempting now that I'm seeing plus 160 out there. Ian Gary is just getting a lot of love this week, so I mispriced the line, but that's okay. I already got a couple units on Gabe Green. Very confident in him to get this done. Again, he's a very young guy too, 29 years old versus 24 for Ian Gary. The next up is another young guy at lightweight now, Jalen Turner against Brad Riddell. This is a very tough fight. I'm really just fading Brad Riddell because of the huge unfair physical advantages of the 6'3" Jalen Turner, close to an 80-inch reach, I believe. At lightweight, it's just unreal. It's not really fair. Again, not 80-inch reach, 77-inch reach for the 27-year-old Jalen Turner. Again, very, very quick strikes that really aren't telegraphed at all. Good kicks, good knees up the middle, which will probably find their mark in the 5'8" Brad Riddell. Brad Riddell is tough, but he was finished against Fiziev in his last bout. By a nasty spinning heel kick, which he ate pretty well, honestly. But I think Jalen Turner, not only is he good on the feet, he's got a good ground game too. So Brad Riddell would be kind of dumb to stand at range against a much bigger, longer opponent. He probably was going to lean on some of the wrestling we've seen from time to time, but Jalen Turner's slick. 2 submission wins in the UFC. He's got a good awareness on the ground, and I think he can threaten with enough submissions to either get a submission and win inside the distance, or at least threaten to get back to his feet, where he will dominate at striking range. Minus 125 is what I got Jalen Turner at. The money line is climbing, but I still see minus 140 out there for Jalen Turner, who I think is just far superior. Physicality alone should be a huge tell and a huge advantage in this fight. Moving on to a couple props. This is going to go back to Gabe Green, who I'm very confident in. Plus 900 by submission. I like that prop a lot. I took a stab on that. Again, I just think the physicality, the difference in strength, and taking Ian Gary out of his element, which is, people have proven that they can do. Even Darian Weeks prove that you can take him off of his feet and start grinding him against the cage, maybe take him down. So I think Gabe Green could do that and hold him down, maybe get that submission, since that will be the clear strategy, is to get this fight to the ground. The sub, plus 900, I like that a lot. Another one I like is Sean O'Malley, who is a big favorite against Pedro Munoz. Sean O'Malley to win by decision. I got this at plus 150, and plus 175 is still out there. Plus 200, if some books might have that. I think that might have been an earlier prop in the week that might have been, kind of moved closer to that plus 175. But Sean O'Malley should be able to strike the much smaller Pedro Munoz at range for 3 rounds. Pedro Munoz, 35-year-old bantamweight, really reaching the expiration date for the weight class. Sean O'Malley, a young 27-year-old kid, all the hype, all the momentum in the world, and just a hugely more fast striker than Pedro Munoz is at this point in his career. Pedro Munoz will struggle mightily at 5'6" to get in range against 5'11" Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley averages, I think, upwards of 8 significant strikes landed per minute, which is insane numbers, and getting hit maybe like a third of that back in return. And that's over about 9 fights of a sample size. Just disgusting numbers. Pedro Munoz, though, never been finished before, so I think that toughness should hold up. Even at his older age here, it should hold up, and Sean O'Malley might have to fight him at range for 3 whole rounds and win by decision. Again, Sean O'Malley going to be around minus 300 by the time the fight rolls around, maybe more. So to transform that minus 300 to plus 175 on the decision line, I like that quite a bit. That's really the bulk of my betting this week that I've loaded up on. However, some of the time props that I do like, I like the overs in the Holloway-Volkanovski fight. I think this fight, we've already seen it play out, 10 rounds of it where it goes to decision both times, razor close. These guys are very evenly matched. 2 elite featherweights, probably the 2 of the best that ever have done it. So fight goes to decision is minus 200. Again, that implies that implies about a 66% probability that goes to decision. Well, we've seen that happen already so far. So, Volkanovski has some power. Max Holloway has, a lot of the volume and the physical advantages here. But I think these 2 are so evenly matched that it will go to decision. Who gets their hand raised? I'm not sure. It's probably a Holloway bet if you're going to bet a side because of the plus money here when it should be an even fight. But fight goes to decision, minus 200. I think that's a pretty safe pick. If you want to parlay that prop, I won't even hate that either. Next up for the main event is Israel Adesanya to win by decision. I like the overs in this fight, but if you're going to bet the overs, you might as well bet Adesanya goes and wins the decision at plus 125. Again, I'm not crazy about that because he could win inside the distance, but I do think that the large majority of the time he's going to stay safe at range against the power puncher Jared Cannonier. This fight probably will not, hit the mat much at all. Maybe some panic takedown attempts from Jared Cannonier, but he's not much of a wrestler, and Israel Adesanya has a crazy 77% takedown defense that he's maintained over his career so far. So, if this stays a kickboxing range, this might end up being kind of boring like the Yoel Romero Adesanya fight where it's low striking volume and, Adesanya leg kicks at range and he dances his way, finesses his way to a decision win here. Plus 125 to transform the minus 430 or so money line I'm seeing out there for Adesanya. Not a bad transformation, but this is probably not a bet I'm going to get to myself. Again, I'm staying off of the parlays. Usually at the end of these best bets and props videos, I list out my top, 5 or 6 confident fighters. I pair those off into 2, 4, and 6 leg parlays. I'm not going to do that this week, trying my best to get back on track and not, have a greasy parlay. I will have a normal Hail Mary parlay of all 12 fights put together, put a minuscule fraction of a unit on that and just, see if it hits or not. And I become a millionaire the next day. But my top 5 confident fighters are Israel Adesanya, Sean O'Malley, Gabe Green as an underdog, Jessica Rose Clark, as I mentioned, and Jalen Turner. Those are my top 5s. There are some sketchy spots, some good underdogs like Sean Strickland, I think. Pretty dicey, too dicey for me, honestly. I don't want to get in the way of the Alex Pereira narrative there, but Sean Strickland, not a bad underdog either. Brian Barberena, not a bad underdog either. But those are my top 5 confident fighters: Adesanya, O'Malley, Gabe Green, Jessica Rose Clark, and Jalen Turner. All right, you guys, leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave a comment below. Slowly getting my voice back here. I'm still a little bit, sick and under the weather, just like I was last week. Not really healing. I think I'm just staying up too late watching fights, doing tape study, and not letting my body recover. So hopefully over this holiday weekend, we can sit back, watch the fights, make some money, get some entertainment, and heal up for the next fight card next week. So, all right, you guys, leave a comment below on what your favorite props and bets are this week. I love to hear it. All right, you guys, enjoy the fights. Cheers.